Good day, my name is Fanie Botha. I'm the COO at FIRTECH, and today I'm going to deliver a talk on artificially intelligent insurers. How far are we from fully automated claims processing in modern insurers? So just before we start, I just want to deliver this short disclaimer. So this talk does not aim to be an endorsement or an indictment on the use of artificial intelligence, machine learning, or any other automation technologies in the insurance or any other industry. It's simply a narrated view on the reality facing the insurance industry from a cost competitive as well as fair practice perspective. The showcase of technology was taken from our FIRTECH IP as well as various publicly available sources. Now, I don't know for whom of you this vista rings a bell. It's a scene from the documentary called Terminator 2 that I just recently rewatched, and by the way, annually rewatch. And this is the scene where Skynet, the neural network AI that eventually tries to take over the world, becomes self-aware. The joke being that it discovered arguing on the internet, and that's why it didn't actually pan out to be true in reality. But the point that's being made here is that AI often has a very controversial kind of question posed whether it's got a place in society. And I think it's very important to just note off the bat that this is not a talk about any of those issues specifically, but rather like the future that's facing the insurance industry. Now, whether we like to agree or not, as it turns out, we like to adopt AI in a big way. If you look around your house, any of your smart devices, any of your apps, for example, your Spotify or even the Siri utility on your phone is actually a very AI-driven tool with a scary amount of understanding and abilities and technology behind it. So the case is that we do acknowledge and adopt AI. And I think the question then really is, where do we draw the line? So there was an article that was just recently published that speaks about an app that uses a natural language understanding AI, which can help you to put your own words into very legal terms and legal kind of contracts. And this is dubbed the AI lawyer, which is not really yet defending you in court. But this is, I don't think, in the far future for the legal industry. And the question is, would you have an AI defend you in a legal case over a human? And I think it brings up really interesting, creepy, heebie-jeebie kind of issues, whether you trust a human in that sense more than an AI that's got perfect recall of all legal precedents and are starting to be in the realm of making really good arguments themselves. But let's talk about insurance, because that's why we're here today. And there's no AI insurance, right? So hopefully this talk makes us think again about this. So I know that the insurance industry is often the butt of various jokes or complaints. I don't know that people just regularly have fun dinner time conversations about insurance or claims processes. And I think it's a commonplace that we often say that insurance companies seem like they don't want to pay out your claims, when in actual fact they really do. But if you start looking at it, you are just costing them money left, right, and center. So even when they onboard you, there's a whole lot of verification, admin, documentation that adds to the cost of owning you as a customer. Even when you pay your premium, there's a cost associated. So I understand that this is how they get their revenue from you, but there's a lot of admin that goes into this. They need to allocate that to your account. They need to make sure it's the right amount, etc. When you do your renewals, whether that's a physical or automated process each year, there's a lot of admin involved there. And that cost can go up if you're a difficult customer that wants to negotiate your renewal each year. On policy changes, you adding a vehicle, removing a vehicle, moving house, all of these include a lot of admin. So even there is a bit of a cost associated for them. But the large majority of cost comes in when you submit a claim. And the claims process, as we'll see, makes up 70% or more of the cost of owning you as a customer. So I'm not even talking about the money that they pay out to you. It's just physically the process of processing claims. So it's really not that they don't want to pay you out. It's just really expensive and tedious for them to do that. So let's see if we can change that using technology. First, I think let's learn a bit about insurance. I'm sure we all have some experience with it being customers, but it might be good just taking another look at what goes into it. So it starts with you deciding that you need or want insurance. So let me just be clear that this is more to do with personal and domestic insurance rather than complicated professional liability, corporate insurance, specialized marine and engineering insurance. We're not really talking about those insurance types today. So in the old days, you could only go through a broker, but these days it's starting to become more and more commonplace that you can go to the insurers directly, and this is either through their app or on some kind of website that they've got. You might even use one of these price comparison websites to get a bunch of quotes and decide out of those quotes which is the most attractive one, the lowest premium, lowest excess, or a combination of that. So now you decide on a quote and you pull the trigger to start the cover. So in this process, they might want to do some verifications. They might want to send an assessor to verify the items you own or the condition that your car is in. However, if you now pay your premiums, then you are essentially covered as long as nothing else changes. So you need to keep them updated in terms of changes, but you are essentially covered. Then, when stuff goes wrong, you contact your broker or your direct insurer ASAP. They register a claim, ask you for a whole bunch of stuff, and bada bing, bada boom, they pay you some money or they don't. Now, where is the AI, or at least the potential for AI in this process? In the start, there's no AI there, so there's sometimes not even the I in AI. So obviously, brokers are starting to adopt technology at quite a speed, and I think that makes for a very interesting talk on its own. But really, we're not looking at automating the broker in this sense. We're looking at automating the insurer and the claims process. There's definitely a lot of technology. There's definitely a lot of robotics in the price verification comparison component, but it's kind of done. Nope, that's just you. There's no AI there. We're starting to get onto something here now. So we're starting to get warmer and warmer. Yes, there's some cases for AI in this process, but not huge. Nope, that's again you. You drove into something or someone stole something from you. So again, not a lot of AI there. But now we're registering a claim and we're really getting into some potential areas for AI. And here's the money shot. So in the claims process is a lot of potential for AI. So if we look at this in a lot more detail, we understand that 70% of the cost is contained in this process between assessment, claim registration, and the final assessment of the claim. So how are modern insurers tackling these issues? So, I mean, we can look at legacy insurers or the larger, older insurers definitely adopting technology, but of course, the newer insurers are designing a lot of these problems out of their process. So let's look at the old cost percentages compared to the new. So often in these new insurers, you are onboarding yourself onto their platform. You are providing the information, already in a digital format. And basically, that greatly reduces their admin and cost burden on the onboarding process. Again, when they are collecting premiums from you, this might be on a pay gate that you put your credit card details into. It might in future even be through your Apple or Google Play Store accounts. And in that way, they're reducing the admin and all of the effort that goes around premium collection allocations, etc. Renewals in a lot of these modern insurers are fully automated. So unless you want to try and find a human to negotiate with about the updated value of your car or home prices in your area, etc., renewals is also greatly reduced effort for them. Policy changes, again, often happens in a kind of self-service fashion. So you are essentially making a lot of the changes to your policy there, and you'll see that the relative cost from the old cost has gone down there. The big one that doesn't change, and in actual fact, in relativity then goes up, is the claims process. Because the claims process, for however automated their app might be, still involves the processes of taking in physical documents like police report forms, which are not going to be digitized, I think, anytime soon. They still use assessors, loss adjusters, investigators, these kind of people. The process, even in a modern insurer, is still greatly the same in terms of claims. And now what you would have seen is, even though they were able to reduce the other costs relatively, claims has actually gone up, relatively speaking. So let's learn about claims to see if there's anything that we can do in this process to kind of find the use cases for AI and start driving down that cost. Now, when the actual boo-boo happens, you need to notify your insurer, and this is, by the way, called a first notice of loss process. And by the way, you shouldn't wait too long notifying them, because if you do, go and check your policy wording. They are not obliged to pay you if some specific time has lapsed between the actual incident and you notifying them. You'll need to provide some driver's license. So let's assume this was a motor vehicle accident. You need to provide them with a valid driver's license, a police report form, and a few other things. They might want to send out an assessor to check if the car is economically repairable, and if you were under some suspicious circumstances, like on the way home from Hooters while the incident happened, they might even send a friendly investigator your way to understand a bit more. Okay, after this process, there's many different roads that it can follow, but there's basically more processes, documents, panel beta quotes, NetStar reports if there are, more and more documents and forms. Now, the claims adjudication process starts, I think important to say, with the filing of all of these documents. So a lot of very specific industry regulations on how these documents need to be classified and filed. A lot of effort in copying data from police report forms and auto body repair shops and stuff into the system. The adjudicator looks at all of this information in one place and then makes a decision on your claim. If all is good and well, you get paid an amount and you sign what is called an agreement of loss document, which basically says that you agree that they've now made good on their promise to refund a claim or pay a claim, and you can't ask for more money for that same claim from them. So hopefully by now you can see that this really is a lot of work, and that it can take up to 30 hours in this claim adjudication process just to adjudicate your claim. Thousands of rands and many human hours just to adjudicate your claim. This does not include the money that they even will pay you out at the end. So let's then meet these people who are the key players in the process that are taking up this time associated with the cost. So this guy is the claim technician. This is a very unthankful job. Long hours, mundane, receiving claim information hour after hour, day after day, reading these documents, typing from millions of accident report forms into a system, reading auto body repair quotes, and basically a never-ending administrative job. Now, this is a part of the process that a lot of insurers are already very successfully automating. So let's just broadly call the technology a document digitization bot. basically a combination of AI, ML, document understanding technologies. So on the screen here, I'm just showing you the UI path document understanding version with one of our specific ML models trained on the South African invoice type. So by the way, you'll see that the ML is picking up the fields both in location as well as in digitizing them between a 99 and 100% accuracy here. And what's very important to understand is that this ML model has never seen this specific vendor invoice in its life. So this is first time seeing this specific vendor invoice, and it's digitizing with between 99 and 100% accuracy. So this means all of these different forms that you can get against a claim can be digitized in seconds as opposed to minutes if you're sending them for verification. But as your model matures and you're happy to bypass the human for some common types of documents, it goes down to milliseconds where you're digitizing and classifying these documents that come in against the claim. Now, I mean, the next step shouldn't blow anyone's mind here. It's been around for a very long time. The fact that you can use robotic process automation quite successfully to then go and follow a bunch of automation steps in any kind of modern IT system or legacy IT system to essentially replicate the steps that the claim technician would have done in the insurance management system. So that is basically your admin function around receiving documents and inputting them into the claim system, registering a claim, creating a claim, basically fully automated. Next, let's speak about the loss adjuster. So I put a picture of the Godfather there, as you can see. And the reason for that is this is the guy who decides basically how much him or her would have paid to replace the stuff that you used to own. So the point is, this is often where the joke comes in, that someone doesn't get the amount out of the insurance claim that they were hoping. So you wrapped your M3 around a tree and you definitely don't get the amount back to buy a brand new showroom M3. Now again, this is being automated already, and what happens in actual fact is the assessor's job is to go and find a relative price of the item or items that were lost or damaged. And even today, insurers, we think they're using those little retail value booklets, but in actual fact, they're going to car websites like cars.coza, Carfind, and the like, and inputting the details of the car that you owned, say make, model, year, kilometers, finding a bunch of prices of cars of similar spec, and basically using that with some additional business rules to determine a logical amount in terms of the claim refund, obviously depending on whether you put in retail or different kind of value. Now, what you're seeing on the screen here is a web scraping AI bot that goes between different car rental websites, but the principle is exactly the same for car buying websites and any other goods for that matter. There are your Gumtrees and Takealots and whatever else for household goods, and all of these things exist online, so you can and people do build the technology to fully automate these kind of steps in the assessment process. So let's talk about the actual assessor. So this is the expert with a clipboard, or hopefully with a clipboard, that can walk around the car and expertly making an assessment of whether it's economical and logical to repair the car or to replace the car. And they do the same thing for damages to buildings and houses, as well as items stolen or lost in such an event. Now, a lot of companies, startups usually are actually tackling this issue using AI and artificial augmented reality at least. And let's just call this, in a generic sense, the damage assessment bot. So if we look at the use case, there's basically a motor vehicle or a building, and you want to replace the function of someone having to inspect the item after a damage or loss event. And this all starts with obviously having a baseline information of the item before the damage or loss event. So in a lot of these cases, the augmented reality app is actually loaded onto the insurance app, and you go around taking pictures of the car when you insure it, and it will pick up these latent kind of damage events like scratches, dents, bumps. They'll ask you to walk around the car. It can identify the various panels on a car, so it's very smart in that sense. It's very good at picking up what kind of damages there are. And then obviously the process concludes where you will again use this app after a damage or loss event, taking pictures of the now damage. And these apps can make fully automated assessments of the damage that is on the vehicle. So absolutely amazing use of AI in terms of damage assessment. Finally, let's talk about the Investigator. So the Investigator are usually ex-SAPS detectives or police officers. So they have got a very, shall we say, specific demeanor and method about them. But even so, their job is to determine whether you were within the bounds of your policy, which says, by the way, you should not be over the legal limit when operating your motor vehicle, as does our law. And the Investigator actually just has access to whatever they can find, whether that's eyewitness kind of accounts. They certainly yet can't subpoena stuff like dash cam footage from you. Now, in this sense, the world is changing in a big way in terms of technology and IoT in general. So let's just call this IoT bot, but it's basically any kind of technology, and we have quite a few that can use GPS coordinates, timestamps, and various multiple digital sources of structured and unstructured information to pull together a timeline of events. If you zoom in on Friday evening, 9 p.m. Around the Sandton North area. Again, there's a lot of digital information out there. If your car is anywhere north of a polo, they these days try to force you to put in a GPS tracking device. In a lot of cases, they still say the data is purely for kind of crash and driving behavior. But I think it's a matter of time until this information obviously becomes invaluable in terms of the investigative and assessment process. In addition to that, we often go and volunteer a lot of information right on the internet, checking in on Facebook with a bunch of mates with too many beers on the table for only 5 people to consume and still be under the legal limit. So all of this information starts to build a very high resolution picture of what actually happened there. And very soon, these investigator functions, we believe, will start to be insourced in the insurance industries by the use of technology. They will have a very good picture of events and might just need an expert for a quick final assessment. So let's see how all of this fits together. Now, again, this is the insurance process, and brokers, like I said, I think have got a place in the future, much more with the specialized insurance products than maybe with commercial, with domestic or private. But now you only spend 5 minutes on this website and you've decided on an insurer. Premium collections is not such a problem anymore because you'll be paying on Apple Pay. You did the damage assessment on your phone in another 5 minutes, and you won't bounce a premium because it's from your Apple Pay account, and you won't let Spotify bounce, otherwise your life is over. Okay, now let's discuss maybe the actual claim event on the next screen. So now the boo-boo happens. But they actually knew this before you did because your GPS sent an emergency signal. So now they're sending you an ambulance and a claim request at the same time, fully automated. You'll need to provide some details like your driver's license still, but like we saw, this is now fully digitized by some document digitization and robotics into the system. Again, you did the damage assessment beforehand, so you are playing assessor in this role. Remember that app. In terms of the investigator, you volunteered a bunch of information on the internet as well as through your GPS tracking. So now they've got that information. The document digitization bots are taking care of the extraction and indexing of all of your claim information. And all of this is now pulled into one central location in a matter of minutes rather than days or weeks. And the final decision, yes, might still be a human, but that's down to minutes in effort, not any more hours. So, and if this plays in your favor, the claim process in terms of cost, but also in terms of lead time can come down drastically, but of course it has some implications. And that's maybe the final tapering off point. So where does this leave us? The reality is that all of the technology that we require to have a fully automated claims process already exists today. So as you saw through this talk, all of the steps in the claim process is well covered from a technology perspective. The real factor that will determine how long it takes for us to actually have an uptake of this is both the ethical and legal issues that still surround some of the data privacy and just the major things around GPS data and the data that you tender on the internet. And then secondly, whether we as customers drive a demand for this. At the end of the day, I hear a lot of people say that they still want to use brokers, that they're not comfortable that their GPS information is used in the insurers. But that's temporary because there will be a new, younger crowd that demands quicker service, cheaper insurance, and they are willing to subscribe to the fact that their GPS data is going to play a role in this. So thank you very much for listening today. I think in conclusion, go and think about these things, but the reality is we already have all of the technology at our disposal to have a fully automated claims process. I hope you learned something today, and we'll now go over into Q&A. Thank you very much.